I'm really not having a lot of luck. I was hoping to start this video with like super happy, positive, back on doing constructive things. A while ago, off Facebook, I bought some, apparently what I was told was refurbished 620 Ti front calipers. I've just taken them out of the box and had a more detailed look at them. I think I've been had. Basically, that is seized in there. They haven't been refurbished. Somebody's just blown them over with some silver paint, including on all of the rubbers. And when I actually look at it in comparison to the caliper I've taken off, they're basically the same. And I had in readiness bought some 620 Ti discs, and these don't even fit over them. You can't even get the guide past it, so they're just standard Rover 200 calipers and they're fucked. So not a good start to the day. I hate cars. With my ZR rack and subframe, which didn't fit, one of the other reasons I bought it is because it had a custom made Pertec power steering hose specifically to go from the rack to the pump, but unfortunately it doesn't fit, so swing and a miss again for me. I'm also missing the pipe that goes into the rack. As you might have guessed, I haven't been particularly organised in the way I've gone about this project. I kind of thought I had everything I needed in a weird way, because I've been gathering parts so long, but it's all in the detail, so lots missing, lots I can't get on with. I've got a few bits I want to paint up, and one of them is also the gear linkage. At the top there we have the gear linkage that came out of the car, and at the bottom we have a good spare. The reason I wanted to swap this one is because it's got the original riveted UJ at the end here. That is so much better than the one that's in the Tourer, so I'm not going to throw this away, but I'll keep it and put it on the Tourer probably. But this one has been modified with a different kind of arrangement with different bushings, and it's bolted, so it's quite a popular thing to do. It just happens to be that this one's done already like that. But what I need to do is swap the selectors over, because I want to fit my original my original Rover 200 gear link and gear knob, which has the threaded top, whereas the ZR has the later push button style. So I've just released the circlip ring, so I'm going to pull all that apart, break it all down, paint it, put it all back together again. I've also got myself a new Powerflex rear bushing. These are meant to be a nightmare to fit, and you can see why, because it's very, very tough, really, really rigid rubber, and it's got to go over that end piece, which it probably won't want to do. But anyway, we shall see. Got that all apart. I fitted my new Powerflex Bush on that part. I figured if I do it now, I'm less likely to ruin the paint afterwards. And back to these linkages. This is the stainless steel aftermarket one. It's actually really nicely made. The only slight problem is that it's a pinch bolt rather than a fixed rivet like the original. If you do that bolt up too tight, you get lots of resistance, and this doesn't want to pivot. If you have it too loose, you get slack. So having the tension on these is absolutely key. They're on nylocks, which aren't the best, and they don't really stick all the way through the thread. I've been fiddling around with them, and I've decided to replace the lock nuts with new ones and put some thread lock in it as well, just so that that stays where I want it with the correct tension. I just cannot get a break. So this gloss black tough paint, I bought 4 cans of it off the internet, eBay. The first few coats came out nice, thick black paint. got a little bit further through the can, and for some reason now it's coming out as a clear lacquer. Doesn't matter how much you shake it, there's just truffle pigment in here, which is really bizarre. So I'm going to go try another can, but it might be a bad batch of paint, which will be very frustrating because I bought 4 of them and they're all in the same packet, so I'm probably going to have the same problem with each of them. This is just unbelievably perverse. I'm not having a good week. So the first can had very little pigment and came out almost like varnish. This can appeared to be working okay, so I resprayed loads of my parts, but it's come out matte when it's meant to be gloss. So I just have got no idea what's going on. Initially I thought it was to do with my prep work, but I've been using proper panel wipe and let it flash off. But anyway, see the difference in the pigment, but it's just going to gloss. Again, I've been shaking them. See all the dents in the bottom from the rattle ball. Anyway, it is what it is. Just checking I've got it all in the right orientation before I finish bolting it together. I'm obviously missing some kind of washer and a bolt there, but other than that I think I've got everything. I've got a new gaiter thing for the top of here as well, so that can go on. And I've put a load of grease in there as well, so it should stay protected. Don't know whether that goes on there, whether it goes on inside the car, but anyway, we're about there with that bit. Just been playing around in the transmission tunnel area. It's actually really lovely in there because they've cleaned it all up, and basically it all looks lovely. Just been going through with a tap, an M6 tap, and cleaning out all the holes, my M6 bolts and washers. Then I'm going to put the 2 front heat shields in, and just to make it look extra pimp, I'm going to give them a very quick dusting of weld through primer, just to make them look shiny and silver. Just stuck a load of copper slip or copper ease on my new bolts and washers so that they'll actually have a chance of coming back out again. Ages and ages ago I did some videos. I never actually uploaded them, but they were basically me tarting up some gas gold coilovers and the trials and tribulations of trying to get it all to work, because basically when I bought them blind. They came in the post and I didn't realise what a horrible lash up they were, so it's taken me many weeks of fanning around to finally get a combination of spacers, rings, top mounts, you name it, so that it all works together. These came from Poland, Silver Project, 2-way adjustable top mounts. The problem was always getting a spring cup the right size that would then sit on the top of there. The only last little thing I need to do is make up little spacers, which I'm doing out of 1mm wall thickness bar or tube, and then they can be finally nipped up and put in the car. When I bought these, they came fitted with very badly corroded platforms and lock rings, so much so that one of them I actually had to cut in order to remove it. So the first expense was buying brand new lock rings, which I got from Gaz, and all the rest of it. Then the previous owner had used the original Rover top mounts, which sat like that, but they didn't sit brilliantly, and in order to hold the top of the damper rod they had that kind of arrangement, and basically that was chattering around in there and eating away through the alley. So I wasn't happy with that. So that's why I ended up buying the Silverline or Silver Project top mounts. Nice pillow ball top mount. Then in order to sit the spring on something, I had to buy these upper spring platforms, but the hole in there is 14mm, well that's only 12, so that's why I've had to make these additional little spacers to take up the play. But now they actually work. I can put them all back together. Gaz, incidentally, are incredibly helpful. They not only did I buy the rings, but they sent me all the transfers and decals to go back on, including the ones for the adjustment knobs. So you hear mixed reports about Gaz, but I have absolutely no complaints whatsoever. Found them really, really helpful. So I'm going to finish putting that together and then bolt it into the car just loosely. I'll take it all off again when I fit the new hubs. Just been playing about with the front end. I've got a used radiator for a Tomcat Turbo in there, and then I've dummy fitted a intercooler that came out of an MG ZR, which has the cold side and hot side routed towards the offside of the car, which is about where it wants to go. I'm just trying to look at how much trimming I'll need to do to move that bumper rearward so it'll fit in. Already I've had to take the bonnet latch support out. That'll go back in, but it'll need to be swan necked or moved so it comes out forward and then back in again to clear the intercooler. The intercooler pipes, you can see where they've been in a car previously, they've been damaged, so they're going in the bin. That intercooler, I don't know its provenance, and I don't really want to go and put that with a brand new, to me, engine and a decent turbo. So I'll be taking some dummy measurements off that and then ordering a new one, or certainly just the core, and then probably a couple of elbows. But it'll work. The one other consideration is whether or not to fit the BRM grille. It does look pretty good, even in body colour, which I wasn't so sure. I knew I didn't want to do it orange. I think I will actually run with that. I've actually scratched the paint a little bit in a couple of places where I've been dummy fitting it. So actually, no, I haven't. It's just polish. But yeah, I think I will run with that anyway. But right, so I'm going to take some measurements off that, order up some elbows and a new intercooler core, then I can properly mount it, and then once that's properly mounted I'll gently shave off the rear side of the bumper in the corners and probably the BRM mouth so it all sits back in properly. Incidentally, I've got I've dummy mounted the anti-roll bar. It's the larger 25mm one from the MG ZR. This car actually had that one in it already, being a 218 IS. I've got my coilovers hanging in there, the lower arms and bits and pieces like that. I've got the gear linkage in now, so I was able to mount my wonderful original 218 IS leather gear knob. Annoyingly, I pushed the boot out of alignment, so I need to get under the car or take the console out again to fix that. What else have I done? Not a lot really, just kind of been pottering around. I'm still learning an awful lot about these cars. I've had lots of Rovers, not so many like this. So there's bits and pieces I am missing, don't know where they go. And I think it's going to be one of those 2 steps forward, 1 steps back type of projects, but we'll get there in the end. Back on the car up again, and today I'll be starting by making a backward step. Once again, I'm staggered by the bodgery that some people go to. I thought, I'll dummy mount my new anti-roll bar, my nicely powder coated anti-roll bar, just set it in there so that I can get it out of the way. And it was only when I was underneath the car, in fact this side's okay, or it's not so bad, but we'll go and have a look at the other side. It was only after it was in the car and I was wrestling with the anti-roll bar that I spotted a bit of a problem. Basically this subframe has been away, been blasted and then powder coated. I bought it after that had been done, so I never really checked it over properly. I just assumed it was minty mint and paid good money for it and put it in the car. But up in there, you can see there's a big rusty hole. So they've obviously blasted it, found the rust, done nothing about it, and then just powder coated over the top of it. So unfortunately, I'm now going to have to take it out, weld it up, ruin the powder coating, but it needs to be done, and then put it back all together again. So not happy. Subframe back out. I can't believe I didn't spot this before, but that's what's gone on. Water obviously gets in between that bottom plate and the main body, and then rots and blows the two parts apart. This side is, you know, you've got the start of something there, but it hasn't done anywhere near as bad as that side. But really, I need to do some surgery on this and just check what's going on. Partway through surgery, I gradually started picking this area apart, quickly discovering that all is not well. It's basically turned to weird rusty cake. So I'm going to keep picking and then work out what the hell I'm going to do. But I'm glad I'm doing it, because this is, you know, like dust in here, just coming away. And of course this is where the anti-roll bar drops onto, or bolts up into, so it needs to be strong. That's kind of the whole point of a subframe. All your suspension loads through the bottom of the car run through this, and then that's tied into the body, so not good. Right, that side I've had to chop a lot more out than I anticipated, or wanted to. Well, I didn't want to chop any out because I thought it was done and in the car. I've kept some of the crucial bits just for templating. The other side I thought looked okay, and then I thought, I wonder. So I tacked that too, and you can see, although it looked okay from the outside, it's completely rotten, and once again the metal has done this weird thing where it turns to almost like chunks of coal, like biscuit. It just crumbles in your hands. It's no longer metal, it's just oxide. So that's going to have to come off. Going to have to repair the actual main frame, and then the closing panels on top. Fortunately, the captive threads are actually on other pieces of metal that are actually behind, and the main crush tube there, which the main mounting bolt goes through, is absolutely fine. There are other seams that are manufactured and sealed in the same way, and they also appear to be fine. So it's just these lower rear corners for the anti-roll bar mounts that are bad. So as frustrating as it is, I'm glad I took this out and I'm fixing it properly, because it's just another thing that would have nagged at me and would have, you know, ultimately probably caused it to fail an MOT on what otherwise would be a nice looking car. So annoying but necessary. I won't bother recording too much of this because it's just welding, boring stuff like that. Just picked this little bit off here, so you can see how the top surface looked really nice. Tiny hole there, brilliantly filled in with powder coat. On the back side, it's basically rot. Lovely. Got my first patches made and ready to go in. They're made out of, well, thick stuff is all I'm going to say. Probably 2mm, maybe a bit more. It's not Zintex, so I've painted both sides with zinc paint, and I'm going to weld that in. I've left deliberately large gaps around it because I want really good penetration, and I'll try and do it as seams rather than spot weld, sort of little individual stitches. Right, welding complete. That's all in. So is that. I forgot how satisfying it is welding thick metal, because you can literally blast the fuck out of it. So that's done. I'm going to grind that smooth-ish. I'm not going crazy because I don't lose the strength, and there's a big plate that goes over the top of it. But I'm going to lynch that off, then set about making the plates to go over the top. It almost doesn't need it because I'm certain that that is a lot stronger than it ever was, because I've put a massive piece of steel in there and really put the heat in, but I will just for belts and braces anyway. That's all ground down, and then I've just sprayed some zinc on top. Gonna make templates now, and I think I've got enough random bits and pieces that I can cobble together a rather sympathetic repair piece. And because it should be symmetrical, I can use the same pattern for both sides, so it should be a little bit faster. I've started making my repair plates, but it struck me that I don't actually have a hole or a drill that size, so I might have to get creative and use the Dremel tool to, after I've drilled the right size hole, open it up. I don't know, we'll see. Right, they're bolted loosely into place just using the anti-roll bar mount points. Again, the backside has been covered in weld through primer. I'm going to do a seam along here. I've drilled out holes for plug welding here. I found a step drill, so I've got up to 12mm there. So it might need opening up a bit more, but I can do that once it's all welded on and hammered in. And yeah, plug weld holes drilled at about 6mm, 5.5, 6mm, because I want enough time to get good penetration through into there. So that's one side done. You can see I've put some stitches in around the edge which wouldn't have been there originally, so it's a goddamn sight stronger than it ever was before. So just got to do this side, same again, seam weld across there, plug weld, plug weld, plug weld, a bit of seamage in a couple of places, and then afterwards I'll open up these holes for the main subframe bolt a little bit larger. It doesn't have to be that much larger. That's the top one, or is it that one? So, you know, that's 12mm, that's probably 12 or 13 but elongated. So yeah, we'll just dance around over the Dremel thing and try and open it up a bit. Welding complete. It just needs some sanding off and a bit of paint, really. Oh yeah, open up those holes with the Dremel. There we have it. All repaired, both ends. Colossal waste of my time, and really annoying considering I bought that as a freshly powder coated, blasted, super duper lovely clean subframe, which of course it isn't. Well, it kind of is now. Anyway, I'm gonna go in now. That's probably taken me 2 hours, and it's a, you know, little things like this cost you time, and fanning around really. Would have been nice to have done something slightly more constructive. In fact, I'm still worse off than I was 2 hours ago, because it still needs painting, then it still needs to go back in the car. But anyway, it's just the way it goes. It's the next evening to that on which I did the subframe repairs. I've just used my newly acquired tap and die set to go through these holes here, just to make sure that there's no weld, swarf or crap in there, so they're all tapped nicely, M8 again. Then I've gone over it with drill with a wire wheel, and I did the same with that front bumper support rail as well. And then I'm going to mix myself up some more Jotun 87 and paint those parts. The reason I'm using that is it's really tough, so it's ideal for an environment under the front of the car like that. And it's got corrosion inhibitors in it, so if I can poke it in all of the seams, then it shouldn't rust out again. And while I've still got dregs of Dynatrol, I'll also shoot a whole load of that into it once it's back in the car, so it should never rust again. So that's what I'm going to do, mix up more Jotun. I'm only going to use a small cup this time because it's expensive, and hopefully I could just touch in those areas and that thing without wasting loads of paint. Subframe officially repaired. I had enough paint left over after I'd done this and the bumper support beam thing to paint the rest of the fuel tank for Dotty. And I also found in my stash of spares a brand new Watts linkage for an SD1. I think I'd got that out ready for Dotty, but looking under the car, all the rear bushes apart from the rear dampers are really good, so that will just go back into my stash. It might well find its way onto the diesel, but anyway, I think I'm gonna just tidy up a bit now because it's all a bit of a mess.